Hello everyone. Today is 16th of July. Now it's 15 to 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Different video today from outside in Alex Christoforou style, walk and talk. And I have good reason for that. My older daughter has exams for university in a distance, and my improvised studio is busy now, so I had to make this update outside. And tomorrow will be the same. Today my daughter applies in one university, and tomorrow she will have exam in another. Like in many other countries, here in Russia, you can also apply for several universities simultaneously. You participate in exams, and if you had good enough points and you are accepted in universities, then you make your choice. So, yes, that's been said. Let's hope my daughter, and she is applying for Faculty of Journalism in all universities that she's chosen. So let's hope she will undergo these exams. Well, I'm quite confident. She was studying well, so I'm quite confident in her. So anyways, that's been said. Let's talk about news now. And as I said, I have quite a number of important news. And first of all, I will start with, I guess, breaking news worldwide, which is that Donald Trump, former and possibly future president of US, officially nominated as a presidential candidate from Republican Party, and Donald Trump named his vice president, and his vice president is going to be Ohio Senator James David Vance. And by the way, as many people are suggesting, if Trump will make it to votes, to elections, then most likely he is next president. There is no way anybody, Biden or whoever Democratic Party Democrats may come up with as their candidate, there is no way anybody can beat him, especially after Trump survived the assassination attempt. So yes, that's breaking news worldwide, obviously, and everybody is talking about it. And when it comes to his vice president pick, Russian media paid attention to his interview with the Fox News. By the way, nice little river here. I'm in Dmitrov, of course, now in the Moscow region. And when it comes to Trump's vice president pick, Vance, Russian media paid attention to his interview with Fox News when he said that if Trump is elected, he will conduct negotiations with the Russian side he will spoke to Ukrainian side, and very much determined Trump to resolve this conflict, and then to focus on main issues that US is facing. And Vance named among main issues China. Not surprisingly, because we all know that there is two clear camps in US, among US Republicans, for example. One is focused on Russia. Hatred towards Russia is unmatched among those groups of neocons, not just Republicans, but Democrats also, so-called Democrats. And there is another group, which is more focused in China, because they see China as a threat, as a major competitor, force that may question dominance of the US in the world. And Vance is clearly on this other camp, and Trump also, by the way. Clearly those politicians are in this other camp that see China as main issue for the US. And I will say it's too little too late, in my personal opinion, to focus on the priorities, because, well, if some 10-15 years ago US probably was able to confront China, while China was not really in a stronger positions as it is now. Today is a different times, by the way. China is a leading member of the BRICS. China is a leading member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. China is a strategic partner for Russia and for many other countries worldwide. And if US politicians think they're gonna isolate China and do with China what they did with Russia, with this proxy war, or what they were hoping for, they are mistaken. They are mistaken, and at this point, I don't think Moscow really cares what Trump's policy is gonna be. And one should keep in mind that, especially because Russia is already victorious, by the way. One should keep in mind that Russia is already victorious over the Western ruling class. And one should keep in mind that it was Trump that started next level of escalation with Russia. It was Trump that was constantly talking about Nord Stream 2 pipelines. It was Trump that started this next level of sanctions wars against Russia. And maybe in his speeches he was saying one stuff about cooperation with Russia and diplomatic solutions to be found to resolve some issues. In the practical terms, Trump's policies were extremely hostile towards Russia. So therefore, I'm very much skeptical that anything will change in US policies excuse me, in regards to Russia. And therefore, yes, it's just, as I said, it's just too little, too late for US political class to wake up. They can focus on anything they want, but world is different now, and they cannot isolate and then pick on countries one by one. World demonstrated that This is exactly the case because 80% of humanity, by the way, is on Russian side. 80% approximately of humanity disagrees with the Western ruling class and their agenda. And I believe when, not if, but when US will start escalating in extreme terms with China, probably by provoking military confrontation between mainland China and Taiwan, world will stand with China, because nobody wants no more dominance of the Western ruling class. They had their chance and they blow it, because the world hates Western ruling class because it's evil force. I mean, it's simple. But anyways, it is good to know that at least publicly Vance and Trump, they are making these statements that they want to resolve this Ukrainian crisis. Okay, I mean, it's gonna be too noisy here. Let's continue this walk. So yes, that's main topics, obviously, for this morning in Russian media. Statements of the Vance and finalization of the candidates from Republican Party. Also, by the way, classified document case was dismissed against Trump. Important news also. And according to TASS news agency, US Secret Service did not check directly building from roof of which that shooter was tried to assassinate Trump. Although Secret Service knew about threat from that roof, but for whatever reason, they were hoping that local law enforcement agencies will take care of it, which is sounds strange. I mean, it's your direct obligation to protect person, and how you can delegate security and protection of the very person that you should protect to some other agencies, while not being sure if they will do their job properly. I mean, it's this story becomes more and more strange. By the way, there are also reports that there was not just one weapon that was used during this shooting at Trump, but several weapons, according to some experts that analyze sounds. And also, by the way, yesterday there was reports that FBI was unable to crack the phone of the shooter, and world was laughing. World was laughing because it was funny and tragic simultaneously. Funny because come on, man, everybody knows that the US Secret Service is you know, spying on just about everybody, and they can access any gadget, literally any gadget, if they want to. And it's a tragic because level of degradation of these US law enforcement agencies are so high that they have no shame no more, you know. They don't, even though no one has any respect for them already, I mean, they are shameless. They openly said and make from themselves laughing stocks that they cannot access phone of this shooter. Unbelievable, man. And of course, these kind of informations are only increasing likelihood that more and more conspiracy theories will be generated, isn't it? And by the way, also we have reports in Russian media also paid attention to it that US Secret Service finally increased protection of the Trump, even though there was a request earlier to increase Trump's protection, but it was not done. Question is why. But now Trump's security is increased, and as far as I understand, Secret Service will or should take care of security of their third presidential candidate, JFK Jr. Although I'm not quite sure he wants protection from that kind of Secret Service that cannot be trusted. And head of Secret Service, some female that, I cannot remember her name, she stated that she has no plans to resign. Yet again, level of degradation of these state institutions in US is unbelievable. I mean, that person has no shame. There was a huge failure on part of Secret Services, and she don't feels guilty. She don't feels guilt. She don't feels that it is necessary to resign to save the face of the institution. Okay. And by the way, on topic of protection of their presidents or candidates to the presidency, I have information that according to Russian media reports, security of Russian President Vladimir Putin was increased significantly also. And I believe this is due to recent revelations from the Kirill Budanov, head of this terrorist, basically. He is in terror wanted list in Russia and charged with terrorism and extremism. And that person, who is formerly head of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate of the defense ministry, said openly that they tried several times to assassinate Russian president, and they are willing to continue. And one should always keep in mind that this Ukraine's so-called secret services are branches, basically, at this point, of their US secret services and British secret services, especially US. And they are under full, complete control of this three-letter agency from the US. And therefore, if that person, Budanov, is saying that they tried several times to assassinate Russian president, that means CIA tried several times to assassinate Russian president. That's how it is. And I believe that's how Russian secret services see it. And understandably so, protection of Russian president was increased. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And Orban, by the way, Prime Minister of Hungary, sent letters to all the EU member or all the leaders of the EU member states with his peace plan in regards to Ukraine. Although, by the way, Orban is in hot waters now, I'm not quite sure that his letter will be even read by majority of the EU member state leaders, so-called leaders, because they are openly sabotaging Orban and Hungary's presidency, Hungary's chairmanship in EU. And yesterday I reported, isn't it, that the so-called top diplomat of the EU, Borrell, even come up with the plan to call for a summit of their EU member state foreign ministers exactly in the dates when Hungary is supposed to hold that kind of summit. So it's a clear sabotage. Hungary is under heavy pressure from Brussels, from the Western ruling class, and Orban himself and his government, they are under heavy pressure, and Western ruling class clearly tries to demonize them, to humiliate them. And at this point, as I said yesterday, I don't get it why Hungary's public and Hungary's government will not conduct a referendum to leave EU, because they join EU to be humiliated or what? I don't know. EU is a failed organization, by the way, big time, and more and more people will realize that in fairly short time. Also, by the way, we have a report from Kommersant newspaper that Zelensky come up with. Zelensky had some press conference, kind of, yesterday, and he came up with some crazy statements yet again. And one of his statements was that Russia have to be presented on the second round of this so-called peace conference, on basis of Zelensky's peace formula. And US officials were very quick to react on it, and they said that they are in support of Zelensky's initiative, that Russia had to be presented there. Are they asking Russia? Is anybody thinks there among those idiots in the Western elites? Nothing to be said about those drug addicts in Kyiv regime, that Russia has to be asked, and Russian opinion have to be taken in account. Such a disgrace of humanity, those people, man. And Russia was not asked, by the way, but Russia's answer is obvious. Moscow already stated that Russia has no interest to participate in any nonsensical conference where this so-called peace formula of Zelensky will be discussed, because it's a non-starter. And Russia was very consistent on that, and this position didn't change. And therefore, who cares what Zelensky has to say or his Western masters? Moscow's position is clear. Zelensky's formula, no thanks. But if Western ruling class is ready for meaningful talks, meaningful dialogue, negotiations, Moscow is open for that. And well, I guess recent peace initiative of the Russian president is still open. It's still open. So if there is a serious attitude in the West, or change of attitude towards this conflict, if Western ruling class realize that longer they will continue this proxy war against Russia, more they will be humiliated worldwide, and more they will lose, then okay, let's talk about peace. Moscow is all for that, and always was open for peace talks. If Western ruling class did not intervene and derailed negotiations between Moscow and Kiev, peace would be achieved in March or April. I mean, sides were quite close to final agreement, isn't it? After several rounds of the negotiations, first in Belarus and then in Turkey, in Istanbul. But Western ruling class derailed that. Anyways, let's continue with some additional news, and we have a Bill's report, by the way. Sorry for camera work, by the way. I'm not really good in this yet, but with practice, hopefully sometime in the future I will make nice videos in this walk and talk style. So TASS News Agency is reporting about information that Bild has acquired, German media outlet, according to which frustration is rising among Zelensky's camp, Zelensky's inner circle, especially because especially because they were expecting much more support from the West that they received, and they were expecting much more from recent NATO summit that took place in US, which is quite interesting, isn't it? And also, by the way, I guess failures after failures on the line of contact also had something to do with this frustration, increased frustration among Zelensky's camp. But the question is, what were they expecting from this NATO summit, or what more they want from West? They receive weapons and money for about 300 billion in last 2 years since the beginning of special military operation, and I mean, what else they want, really? NATO to start full-scale war. NATO to start full-scale war against Russia on behalf of Kiev regime. This is not going to happen. But that's what Bild is reporting, by the way, that Zelensky and his inner circle is more increasingly frustrated with the West. Okay, maybe someone should recommend them to use less drugs or to stop using drugs at all. That might help them to come to their senses, really. Also, dear friends, I have to share with you this report from RT about ex-NATO ambassador who basically demands Ukraine to conscript teenagers now. So information is that Kiev should send 18-year-olds to fight Russia to increase the likelihood of victory. Former US ambassador to NATO Ivo Dalder has argued. And earlier, as we all know, earlier this year, Ukraine already lowered draft threshold from 27 to 25. And in so-called parliament of Ukraine, there is a draft bill about further decrease in draft age up to 18. But yet again, this information clearly demonstrates a real face of the Western ruling class, isn't it? They want to continue this proxy war against Russia until last Ukrainian, literally until last Ukrainian. And this so-called ambassador, this former high-ranking official of US, is openly calling for Ukraine, for Kiev regime, to start mobilizing 18-year-old kids, by the way, to send them to the front. As I said so many times, these Western so-called elites, Western ruling class, they are evil force, by the way. They are evil people. I mean, I wonder how anybody can have any respect towards such a disgraceful individuals. I don't know, and I wonder when majority in Ukraine, majority of the society in Ukraine will realize that they've been used, abused, and sacrificed by Western ruling class for their geopolitical agenda. Because, I mean, what other proof do you want? Are this information available in Ukraine at all? I don't know. But if it is, then what those people are thinking, man? Why they are not rebelling against a Western-controlled regime? I mean, why they are, you know, maybe they are afraid. I don't know. And probably they are afraid, you know. When society is not united, and it is becoming difficult to fight against a system, against a regime, because one man can do nothing against the system. Society together can. So that's information that Russian media paid attention to, that this former ambassador of US into NATO called Kiev regime to mobilize teenagers, by the way. Let's continue. And well, according to German media portal Merkur, Germany sent an additional bunch of weapons to Kiev regime, secretly, kind of, and among weapons that was delivered were a bunch of tanks, Leopard tanks, also Marder infantry fighting vehicles, more than 30 tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. Also, according to reports that they see, 3 HIMARS MLRS systems, or German variation of their HIMARS MLRS systems, and air defense systems, IRIS-T air defense systems. And this is happening, by the way, at the time when the German defense minister, head of Bundeswehr, Pistorius, is openly cries about the lack of funds for German army and lack of weapons. Just like 2 weeks ago, Pistorius was not happy about lack of funding, and he was saying that Bundeswehr should receive another 5 billion euros, but it didn't. And while the situation is like that in Germany, when German defense force, German army needs weapons and money to be able to do anything at all, Scholz's government is sending whatever weapons German army has in a stockpile to the Kiev regime. And this information clearly highlights once again that Germany is an occupied country, by the way. And German government, Scholz, is basically representative of the Washington, not really German people. That's how it is. But anyways, let's, how long is this update? Already 33 minutes. So I will go through a few more news, dear friends, and I will end this update on that. Update from Rostech, Russian military-industrial complex, which has plans to increase range of Russian glide bombs, including FAB 3000. And well, as far as I know, right now, range of FAB 3000, for example, or FAB 1500 for that matter, is about like 50-60 kilometers. And if range will be increased for another, let's say, 20-30, then these weapons that already are kind of game changers on line of contact, these weapons will become, of course, even more devastating for Russian enemies. If they could fly like 80-90 kilometers, that's very significant. That's very significant, by the way, of course. And work is being done on this direction by Russian military-industrial complex. And because announcement was made, I guess maybe first glide bombs with the new generation kit, glide kit, probably already are deployed. So we will find out soon about that. Also, by the way, very important news that Russian representative in Oslo is this so-called international organization on chemical and biological weapons. Russian representative there is saying that West is preparing chemical provocation in Ukraine with some chemical substances, and they already are testing the ground in this organization to gain support for whatever provocation they are about to commit. And well, this information became public. Russian media, RIA Novosti, for example, is writing about it, and I guess this is a preventive measure to just to inform this world, by the way, that Western ruling class has such plans. So if in upcoming days or weeks you hear anything about any allegations towards Russia about some chemical weapons being used in Ukraine, you know that this is a PSYOP. This is CIA, by the way. CIA, MI6. This is provocation of the Western ruling class, those disgusting individuals there. Also, interesting update on Kaja Kallas, extreme Russophobe, and their former prime minister at this point of Estonia. She resigned yesterday, and the entire government of Estonia resigned. There's some scandal in that failed state, by the way, quasi-state, about funding of the defense ministry. I guess in their Russophobic rage, government of Estonia, including Kaja Kallas, spent everything they had against Russia to support the regime. And now some people in Estonia find out that well, some 1.5 billion euros worth of weapons are missing, or 1.5 billion euro itself that's supposed to be allocated for weapons for Estonian army. I mean, you might be surprised that they have some army there. I don't know how many people, like 50, 70, maybe 100, but oh, they are top-notch militaries, by the way. Obviously. Estonian army, man. What a joke. But anyways, by the way, this Kaja Kallas is no longer prime minister of Estonia. Although, why should she care? We all know that she probably will replace Josep Borrell on the position of top diplomat of the EU, which is one more indicator that the EU is finished, by the way. This organization, let me show you, dear friends, is clearly done. Some ducks, by the way, in this river. So yeah, Borrell was disaster for EU, obviously, on the world stage, and of course Kaja Kallas will be even worse, because she has no idea what, not even slight understanding of what diplomacy is. I mean, let's be real though. So yes, she is no longer official in Estonia, although she will continue to work as a prime minister before a new one will be appointed. But I mean, she's basically gone from Estonian. Just give it time. And well, we should expect her in Brussels. That's gonna be something, man, when this extremist individual will be in charge of EU diplomacy. Crazy. Also, by the way, let me give you a few more news, just the headlines at least. So Georgia's president is Salome Zurabishvili is so unhappy with her, so much unhappy with the ruling party in Georgia that adopted this law about foreign agents, that she is now asking Constitutional Court of Georgia to review this law. She wants this law to be dismissed, basically, recalled, because that's what her Western masters wants. Because she is an asset of the West, by the way. I mean, clearly, obviously. She is born in France, she is raised in France, she was working in the French foreign ministry. And she spent quite time in US as a French diplomat. And at some point, I don't know when exactly, but at some point, most likely she was recruited by this three-letter agency in US, and she's since then works as their operative, because since she became president of Georgia, she done nothing for Georgian people, by the way. I still remember how angry she was when agreement was made between Moscow and Tbilisi to reopen direct flights between the two countries, which is great news for ordinary citizens, isn't it? Because there is a huge Georgian diaspora in Russia, and there is, by the way, huge number of Russian tourists in Georgia, and there is always movement. And many Georgians, by the way, here in Russia are citizens of Russia, but they are maintaining some contact with Georgia. They are traveling to Georgia, so it was a great news for ordinary people. But Western ruling class didn't like this. Western elites didn't like this step towards normalization of the relationships between Moscow and Tbilisi, and she went crazy also on that. Salome Zurabishvili, so-called president of Georgia. So after that, I mean, if anybody had any doubts that she has no care about lives of ordinary people, and after that, no one should have any doubts. And now she is actively against that law on foreign agents, because Western ruling class is against it. And yesterday, by the way, I shared some details in my second update on Patreon about NGOs in Georgia. Very interesting data, by the way, very interesting data, when basically those NGOs were sharing no information, almost no information at all about their work, about their finances, about their donors, even staff members, to anybody, not just to public, but also to state institutions. So they were operating in almost complete secrecy by being funded from the outside of Georgia, and operating on behalf of their donors, whoever those donors are in US or in Europe, mainly US, by the way. So interesting data. If you are a member of our community on Patreon, check that video. And if you are not, then please consider to join our community on Patreon. Link is on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And yes, let's see what decision will be made by Constitutional Court of Georgia. Let's see if Western ruling class has influence or their assets in Constitutional Court. Also, dear friends, also just a couple of more news, because I can see update is already 44 minutes. So, well, Russian-Chinese naval exercises have started in Pacifics, and this is of course not the first and definitely not the last military exercises of the Russian and the Chinese militaries. Also, we have information here from head of VTB Bank, by the way, here in Russia, which is the second biggest bank. So Kostin, head of that bank, stated that towards the end of this month, Central Bank of Russia may increase interest rate up to 18% from current 16. Well, I expected something like that to happen. I spoke about it several times in previous updates, and well, it is quite likely that that's exactly what is going to happen. Central Bank is using whatever tools they have to cool down economy, because it's clearly overheating. And well, one way is to increase interest rates. Yeah. Also, by the way, in August, Russia may ban exports of their gasoline, benzene. In Russian, it's benzene. In US, they say gas. In Europe, gasoline, I guess. So Russia may ban export of the benzene in order to increase demand on internal market, because it's a traveling season, isn't it? And And agriculture is consuming huge volumes of oil products, obviously also. And if this is going to happen, then of course on the market, including in Europe, prices on fuel probably will increase for some time. Also, by the way, two more news, and that's it. True Social shares skyrocketed after attack on Trump. Recent attack on Trump, assassination attempt failed, and one of their outcomes is not just almost inevitability now that Trump will win these elections, but also his social media that affiliated with him. This True Social shares jump some 70 or 77%. So that's interesting. Trump gained, I guess, a couple of billions on that. And also, by the way, there was questions about YouTube in Russia, right? I see a few times members of our community was asking me about fate of YouTube in Russia, especially now, when there were some technical issues in recent days. And well, a press spokesman of Russian president was asked about it, and he said that there is no plans to block YouTube or do anything really against this platform. So this is the answer. YouTube, if YouTube itself will not stop operating in Russia, then Russia has no plans to stop or block YouTube, which is good news, by the way. Which is good news. I don't think blocking media outlets or social platforms is a good idea. But there was clearly some technical issues in recent days. Upload speed was very slow, but yesterday and day before yesterday it worked okay. So maybe, and the information was that it was YouTube's problem, it was YouTube's equipment, and maybe they resolved this issue. Who knows? I will check now also in a couple of minutes when I start uploading this video. But anyways, this is it for today's update. Hopefully you will find this video somewhat interesting, useful, informative, hopefully. And if so, please don't forget to click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. And yes, finally, if you like my work, if you like my channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, then please consider to support with donation through PayPal, by the way, or Boosty. You can use Boosty also for this, or subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty. That Boosty platform is quite unique in that regard. You can send donations through that platform and also subscribe. And rumors are that Patreon may do the same. That will be good stuff. So yes, all the links, by the way, all the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.